guys, it's Loves to Loom here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create the Enigma bracelet. This was created by Loomy Mama on Instagram. This was actually the tighter version of her cryptogram bracelet, and I just recently posted that tutorial on my channel, so you can check that out. This one here does take about 130 to 140 bands roughly, depending on your wrist size, of course. So yeah, I love this design. If you have not checked out Loomy Mama's account, I will have that information below. And without rambling on any longer, let's get started. To make this bracelet, I do recommend having either a double-ended hook or two hooks. It makes things a little bit easier. It is possible to make with just a regular rainbow loom hook, but it might be a little bit more challenging for you. So I'm going to be using my double-ended hook today. We're going to start by grabbing your border band color that you're going to use, and we're going to make a cat band. We're going to grab two more of that same color, and we're going to pull those through the cat band and reattach. Now the beginning of the design is a little bit different than the actual sequence goes. So we're going to use that same color, and we're going to be bringing 3 bands onto each side. So this is going to go through the first 2 bands only. But before you reattach, you want to pick up the band that's closest to the outside and place it back on your hook. And now you can close that off. We're going to add on our second band. Bring it through the first 2 bands. Before reattaching, pick up the band closest to the outside, place it back on, and close it off. And we need to do that one more time for this side. So go through the first 2, pick up the outside band, place it back on your hook, and close it off. So this is where if you only have one hook, you're going to need to pinch everything and turn it around. If you have 2 hooks, you're going to just want to pull it down like that and slide the other hook in to transfer it. So I have a double-ended hook, so I'm just going to turn mine around. And now we're going to add 3 onto this side. So the first one's going to go through the first 2. Before reattaching, pick up the outside band and place it back on, and then close it off. Adding my second one on, bringing it through the first 2. Pick up the outside band, place it back on, and close it off. So there should be 10 bands up here on your hook. We're going to cross the very 2 middle bands. And it doesn't matter which direction you cross them. You just want them always to be crossed the same direction. So now we need to get one of our inner color bands, and it's meant to only go through these 3 bands here. I'm going to do it a little bit different just because I think it's a little easier. So we're going to place it on, and I'm actually going to pull it through all 5 so that I don't have to remove those 2. So bring it through the first 5 and make sure that you're keeping it crossed when doing that. Do not close it off yet. Because we did it that way, we need to reattach the 2 outside bands, like so, and now close that green off, or whatever color you pulled through. So now we need to do a little bit of rearranging. We want the green to sit in the middle. So I'm just going to kind of plop these 2 over, like so. Make sure that you don't rearrange the order of these 2 bands when you do that. So now we need to grab one of our border color bands, and we're going to pull that through the first 3 bands. Before you reattach that, you want to pick up the very outside band and place it back on, and then close it off. So now we need to do that same thing on the other side. So you're either going to want to transfer it using your other hook or slide it down if you have a double-ended hook. So I'm going to grab my first color band for this side, or my only color band for this side. So we're going to pull this through the first 5 bands. Before you reattach it, we need to pick up the 2 outside bands, place them on your hook, and then close off that green. We need to rearrange it because we need the green sitting in the middle. So without rearranging those 2, just plop them over like so. Now we're going to add on our border band, and this is going to go through the first 3. And before closing that off, you're going to pick up the 1 outside band and place it back on and close it off. Like so. So this is actually going to be where the sequence starts. So the first thing we're going to do is cross our 2 middle bands. You want to make sure it's crossing the same direction that the one before it did. So mine goes to the left on the outside. So now we actually need to remove these 3 bands on the end. So just be very careful, get a good pinch. You can always use another hook if you feel more comfortable. And now keeping these crossed, I need to slide it down a little. We need to pick up the band that is closest to the hook. So that's going to be this band right here. Pick that up and place it back on your hook. Now we're going to go ahead and reattach the 3 bands that we were holding. Like so. So now we're going to grab whatever color you want to use next in your sequence in the middle. I do recommend using more than one color because it just makes it easier. So I'm going to use blue. We're going to place this on and we're going to bring it through the first 5 bands. You're not going to close that off yet. We're going to pick up the 2 outside bands, place them back on your hook, and then close off the blue. Just like the first time, we want that band that we just added on sitting in the middle. So grab these 2 border bands without losing their order and just plop them over there. So actually we need to remove these 2 outside bands now. So we're going to grab those 2, remove them, and we need to pick up that band right there. So whatever band is closest to your hook needs to go back on it. It is a little bit tight, so just be careful. Be careful not to lose any of these bands. So get that back on your hook like so. And now reattach the 2 you were holding. So now we're going to grab our border color. And our border color is going to go through the first 4. Before closing off that border, pick up the 1 outside band, place it back on, and close it off. So it looks like that. And now we need to work on the other side. So I'm going to slide it down. So before we start working on this side, we need to grab the first 3 bands and take it off. And we need to pick up the band that is closest to our hook. So that would be this one right here. Place it back on. And now we can place on the 3 we were holding. Grab your band, whichever band that you just added on over here. So that's blue for me. And we're going to pull that through the first 5 bands. 2, 3, 4, 5. So before you close that off, we need to pick up the 2 outside bands, place them back on your hook, and then close it off. And remember, we want that band sitting in the middle, so we're going to grab these 2 bands and just plop them over, because you want that sitting inside like that. For our next step, we need to remove these 2 outside 2 bands, And we're going to pick up this band that's closest to our hook. Get that back on there. And then reattach the two outside ones. Like so. Now we're going to grab our border band. And this is going to go through the first 4. Before you close it off, pick up the outside band, place it back on, and close it off. So we're at the start of our next sequence. So you always want to start with crossing the 2 middle bands. Make sure that the outside band is crossing in the same direction that the rows before it were. So mine's crossing over to the right. And this is the band here that I'm referring to, right in there. So before we can add on our next band, we need to remove the first 3 bands. And we need to pick up the band in here that is closest to our hook. So it would be this green one right here. Place it back on. Make sure you keep these 2 crossed when you do that. And now you can add on the 3 we're holding back on. So the next color that you're going to pull through is whatever color you want to be next in the center here. So I'm going to just go back to green and keep that pattern. So we're going to pull this through the first 5 bands. Before you close that off, we need to add on the 2 outside bands back onto our hook. And then close off the one you just pulled through. So we need to rearrange these because we need these 2 bands on the outside. So now we need to remove these 2 outside bands because we need to pick up this band right here, which is going to be the band closest to your hook. So take those 2 off. Here's the 2 bands. You want the one that's closest to your hook. It is a little bit hard because it's like kind of tight in there, so make sure you're picking up the correct one. Place it back on, and now you can reattach the 2 you were holding. You're now going to grab your border color, and this is going to go through the first 4 bands. Before you close that off, you're going to pick up the very outside band and place it back on and close it off. So now we need to complete the other side. So we're going to slide everything down. So now we need to remove the first 3 bands. We need to pick up the band closest to your hook and get it back on there. And now you can reattach the 3 you were holding, like so. You're going to grab whatever color you just added onto the other side, which for me is the green. And you can always look on the right side or the other side and see whatever band's on top here is what you should be adding. And this is going to go through the first 5. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we need to pick up the 2 outside bands and place them back on. And then close that off. You need to rearrange because you need that sitting in the middle. Like so. Now we're going to remove the 2 outside ones again. You need to pick up the inner band closest to your hook. Close it off. Grab your border band color, and that's going to go through the first 4 bands. Whenever you're adding your border band, it always goes through only the 4. Pick up the outside band and place it on and close it off. So it should look like that. And now we're at our next row again. So you need to identify which way your crosses are going. So we're going to cross the 2 middle bands. Mine's going this way this time. And now we're going to remove the first 3 bands. And we need to pick up the band that is closest to our hook. Place it back on. And now reattach the 3 you were holding. So now you're going to grab whatever color you're using for your middle next. So I'm going back to blue. And we're going to pull this through the first 5. Before closing that off, pick up the 2 outside bands, place them back on your hook, and close it off. Rearrange your bands so they're sitting in the middle, or so that's sitting in the middle. And now we're going to remove these 2 so that we can pick up the band that is closest to your hook again. So for me this time it would be green. So if you're pulling up, it may lose its place, so just kind of pull it out like this to identify which band you should be picking up. And then you can now reattach the 2 outside bands, like so. So we're going to now grab our border band, and this is going to go through the first 4. Pick up the very outside band and place it back on your hook, and then close it off. So now we need to do that to the other side. So I'm going to slide everything down. We're going to remove the first 3 bands. Pick up the band closest to your hook. Reattach the 3 you were holding. And now grab your band that you need to add, which should be whatever you added on that side. So it's blue for me. You're going to bring this to the first 5. Before you close that one off, pick up the 2 outside bands, place it back on your hook, close it off. Rearrange, like so. Want that sitting in the middle. And now we need to remove these 2 so we can pick up our inner band again. So pick out whatever is closest to your hook. Place it back on like so, and then you can close it off. Just always double check the order of your bands. Make sure that the outer bands are laying properly. So now we're going to grab our border band, and this is going to go through the first 4. Pick up the outside band, place it back on your hook, and close it off. So now we're going to cross our middle bands again. We're going to remove the first 3 bands. We're going to pick up the band that's closest to our hook, place it back on, and close off the 3 we're holding. Grab your next color, which is going to be green for me. This is going to go through the first 5. Pick up the 2 outside bands, place them back on, and then close it off. Rearrange. We're going to remove the 2 bands on the outside, and we need to pick up the band that's closest to our hook again, which is that one right there. Just make sure you pick up the right one, because the one that you need to pick up is actually like the tighter one of the 2. So it's kind of hard. Get that back on your hook, and now close off the 2 you were holding. And now you're going to grab your border color, which is going to go through the first 4. Oops. Before you close it off, pick up the band closest to the outside and then close it off. Like so. Slide it down again. And now we'll do that on this side. So remove the first 3. You need to pick up the band that's closest to your hook. Reattach the 3 you're holding. Grab your band, bring that to the first 5. You're going to pick up the 2 outside bands and then close it off. Rearrange your bands like so. Remove those 2 outside bands and now pick up the band closest to your hook again. Reattach, and now you can pull through your border band. And that's going to go through your first 4. Pick up the outside band and place it back on and close it off. Alrighty, so when you reach your desired length, to close it up, you're going to be at the point of where you're going to start your next sequence. We're going to cross the 2 middle bands just like we were the whole time. And we are going to remove the first 3 bands. This part is just like we've been doing the whole time. You're going to pick up the band that's closest to the inside, like so. Now you're only going to connect the band that's closest to your hook right now out of the ones you're holding. And now we're going to pick up the next band that's closest to your hook. And get that back on there, like so. And now we can close off the 2 remaining bands that we're holding. So you're going to grab your border band color and we're going to pull it through these 6 bands. Make sure that you keep it crossed when you're pulling these 6 over. And before you close that off, you're going to pick up the very outside band, place it back on, and then close that off. Like so. We're going to come down to the other side, or turn it around. And now we can do the same thing on this side. So remove the first 3 bands. Pick up the band that's closest to your hook. You're going to reattach only one of the bands you're holding right now, so the one closest to your hook. And now you're going to also pick up the band down here that's closest to your hook. Reattach the 2 you're holding. Grab another border band. And you're going to bring this through the remaining 6. So 2, 4, and 6. Before you close it off, pick up the 1 band closest to the outside and close it off. Like so. So you have 6 bands right now on your hook. You're just going to grab 1 more border band and you're going to pull that through all 6 of these bands. Like so. So if you do still find yourself having difficulty, you can definitely rewind it and watch the previous instructions. This is the Enigma created by Lumi Mama on Instagram. If you do make this rendition, please tag her and myself, Loves to Loom, on Instagram. We'd love to see it. And if you like it, please hit the like button below. We'd greatly appreciate it. So I do appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you at my next video. Bye!